Welcome to the Spiritual Basics Podcast. I'm Dr. April Darley.
And I am Jen Merkel.
And we are here to let you in on all things metaphysical, spiritual, woo-woo, and just plain awesome.
Super awesome.
Speaking of awesome stuff, Jen, you just got a special package in the mail today. Tell us all about it.
Oh my gosh. Yes, today I am dying. So actually, I learned about this from you. I don't know how that happened.
This is true. It's Facebook. It's a Facebook.
Yeah, we learn everything from Facebook, don't we? Anyway, so I learned from April that, people, you probably know if you've listened to past shows that I am a RuPaul's Drag Race junkie. And RuPaul's Drag Race has an unofficial tarot deck. And actually, it's not endorsed by RuPaul's Drag Race. So I don't know if it's black market or what, but I got it on Amazon. So I don't know how black market can be. But anyway, I was like, oh my gosh, I can remember what you messaged me like, hey,
I did
you hear about this? I'm like, what? No. And then 3 seconds later, okay, purchased.
Yeah, I know. I was like, whoa, that was fast.
It was pretty cool. I was really excited. I did get them today. Finally, it was one of those things where it was a shipper or a seller, I think from outside the US. So it took over a month to get here, but
oh, wow.
Yeah, I got him and I looked through them and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So I can't wait to play with this deck. It is going to be so much fun.
That's fantastic. Did you recognize some of your favorites in the deck?
You know, I did. I recognized some. I mostly got into RuPaul's Drag Race with the most recent season, which is season 11. And so I know all of those girls really well, but I did see one, Miss Vanjie, who I think is a repeat from a previous season. I think she was cut early on in one of the seasons and they brought her back. So that was her. And then they had a bunch of, obviously there's 78 cards and they had 78 girls on, different girls on each card. And so some of them had come on as guests on the show. Plus I'd seen them on Instagram and other places too. So, but I'm also excited because Hulu, I think it's Hulu, has RuPaul's Drag Race season 1 through 8 going on right now. And they also have an All-Stars going on. So that's on my watch list. I just got to get some other personal goals out of the way. But yeah, it's on there and it keeps reminding me. It's like every time I turn it on, it's like in your watch list, unwatched in your my stuff. I'm like, oh, I watch that.
Right.
Yeah. I got a weekend coming up. I got a weekend coming up that I might have some downtime and, just got to.
You can get a fix.
Yeah, plant my butt on the couch and do a little binge watching. So I'm looking forward to that. And what's going on with you, Miss April?
Oh, dear. Traveling. I recently had a tire explode on the freeway. So
well, that's not good.
No, that was challenging, but there's a lot of planetary wackiness going on. So,
it seems like there's always planetary wackiness. But yeah, I think you're right. There's been a lot of weird things going on lately and a lot of like unforeseen things happening.
Uranus is in retrograde, so when that happens, it's expect the unexpected, and so then that's completely true. But it was all worked out. It all worked out really well. It's good.
Oh, yeah, and of course Uranus is the ruling planet for Aquarius, and Aquarius, they like to keep things people guessing.
Oh yeah, they like to keep you guessing.
Aquarius over here on this side of the microphone, so. And it's very true. Very true. As April would tell anybody, I guess I am a true red-blooded Aquarius in every sense of the word. So
that's right.
Oh, anyway, so this week we are talking about numbers. So all about seeing numbers is the title of our podcast, our episode. And basically it's, what it means when we see number sequences or repeating numbers, especially if you are early on in your development, you might be seeing a lot of numbers and wondering why. So a couple things before I get into, what the numbers are all about. Well, actually, before we do that, April, let me ask you this. When you see numbers, what are some of the kind of places that you see numbers?
All right. So for me, I am clairvoyant, but I don't see numbers a lot. So that is not one of the signs that I get very frequently. But when I do, it's almost always on a clock. So it's my phone, the alarm clock, the clock on the stove. Very rarely will it be a repeating number on a license plate, and I usually only pay attention when it's 444.
Uh-huh.
But I have several friends that see number sequences. They see them on store receipts, license
Uh-huh.
plates, like just phone numbers. I mean, you name it.
Yeah, for me, when I was just starting out with my spiritual journey, when I was just becoming enlightened, as I like to say it, was asking my guides and angels for signs, which, I still do sometimes, but not quite as much back then. I was like, thirsting for information. So please send me a sign, and because I lived in Arizona at the time and I did a lot of driving, as everybody does in Arizona. Everybody also has vanity license plates there. Like
Right,
I
they
swear
do.
50%, I even did at that time. I think like 50% of the cars you see going by. And I always thought that was kind of humorous, just like to kind of see, what does someone select as their vanity license plate? What does it mean? So I was always looking at license plates. And so my guides and angels sent me a lot of numbers through license plates. But there were some other things too, like for example, when I was coming to the end of a career path that I was on, nine started showing up for me. That's an end number, and we'll, I'm not to spoil any surprises, but we're going to go through the whole list in a minute. But I saw it on license plates, and then I saw it on billboards, and then I saw it when I pumped my gas. It was like 1999, and it was just like not that was the price, but that was the final bill. Like that's what was on my credit card. So yeah, that was a bunch of ways, but it's always like when it's in a random place, that's kind of what we're talking about. Not like someone's email that's like 444, like my email, right? I mean, it's deliberate, or, that kind of thing. We're talking about something that's random. That's where it's really going to be a more significant sign. Other places you might see are like jersey numbers and addresses, that too. So, and usually also you'll see it in threes, unless you keep seeing like the number 465, 465, 465, or 456, that kind of thing. Sure. Well, even that's in threes, but we're talking about like saying 111 or 777 or something like that. We're trying to keep things simple. We're not going to get into, the deep meanings of numerology and how numbers all go together. It's more of a basic overview, but hopefully it'll give everybody some understanding. So
yeah, I just even thought about this. My flight, I was explaining to you, I just went out to Arizona. Fun fact,
yeah.
Jen and I both lived in Arizona at the same time and never met until we moved to Texas.
I know. I think we live like probably 5 miles from each other.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So when she's like, everybody in Arizona has vanity license plates, she's so right.
Yeah.
They do. I'm like, yeah, I get it. But my flight time on the way back was 5:55. I mentioned it to you. I had the 5:55 flight.
That's interesting.
Right? Yeah. And I do remember after my tire got changed by roadside service, I'm looking at the clock and it was 5:55. And I'm a Taurus. So all you Tauruses out there, 5th month, May, Taurus thing. And my birthday has some 5s and some 7s in there and sort of a repeating sequence. So
interesting. Well, we're going to get to the meanings of 5s in a minute. And I have a personal story to share about 5 specifically too. So,
all right, well, let's get on it.
All right. Well, first of all, you might ask, how do you know which meaning is right? So like I said, there are several different meanings for different number sequences. So like the number 1 will mean, it might be like 8 different things it could mean, and actually more than that, but how do you know which is right? And the answer there is whichever one resonates with you. What your intuition tells you. Intuition is something that's really important if you're going to be interpreting number sequences, because it's going to mean something different for me than it does for April, than it does for our listener. It's just all going to be different. Another thing I would say is how to know is if you hear, like say later today, you all of a sudden start seeing, the number 8 around. There's a general meaning for 8, but it could mean a lot of different things. What you think about at first, the first thing that comes to mind when you start seeing the 8s and realizing you're seeing all these 8s, that's what it's about. So it
Mm-hmm.
could be about something like that doesn't even necessarily have to do with 8 specifically, but something. So that's basically your intuition kicking in. Like for example, for me, the number 3 comes to me because my grandfather was born in March. And when I first went to see a medium, he was telling me the number 3 keeps coming in, number 3, number 3. And I realized, oh, it's my grandfather who was born in March, and it's definitely who came through. So now I know when I start seeing 3s that my grandfather is with me.
That's great.
That's not something that's necessarily going to be true for April. But anyway, so that's just an example of how to know which meaning is right.
Right. And then when I first started on my journey, and I'm thirsty for information, so I first heard about repeating numbers as being called angel numbers. So you may hear that as well.
Right.
And there were a couple of books out. One was very popular. It's by Doreen Virtue, and she started it from 0 and took it all the way up to 1,000. So I am often impatient. So if I would see something really weird, like I'm seeing, 843, what the heck is 843? And I didn't feel like doing all the meanings individually in my head, I would just open a book and go to 843. But there again, as you mentioned, that's her interpretation. Same thing with Google. If you Google it, it may not be a personal meaning to you. But there are books out there. Doreen Virtue and Kyle Gray both have angel number books that you can get on Amazon. We are not affiliated with them in any way. So just that's an extra resource out there for you.
Yeah, really good resources, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And, something else to say about Google is that, you certainly can Google a number if you start seeing it. But just keep in mind that you're going to be seeing what Google wants you to see based on thousands of other people searching, based on, what's hot, based on who's paying them. So that's not necessarily the best resource. I'm not saying that you can't do that. You certainly can, but it really is kind of taking your own intuition out of the mix. And, like I said, for me, I think intuition is really important. But when you're first starting out too, it can be hard because you kind of don't know where to start with a lot of things. So that certainly, makes a lot of sense. So there are different ways to interpret numbers. And by the way, this isn't a numerology course. I don't consider myself a numerologist. I just know a lot about numbers from what I have learned and experienced over the years. And this is what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So ways to interpret numbers include the tarot. So the tarot has, different numbers that have different meanings in the cards. Also, the chakras, the 7 main chakras. Numerology itself has certain meanings. And like I said before, months of the year, also zodiac numbers, like April just brought up, So there are different ways. And then there are also some random ways that numbers can have meanings for us. So to get started, let's start at the beginning.
Yes,
Number
let's do it.
1. So when we see 3 ones together, so 111, or often you might see 1111 on the clock. Generally, numbers, the number 1 means new beginnings. It can also mean a wake-up call. So like pay attention to who's around you, to what's around you. And your root chakra is your first chakra. So that's about security, stability, and basic needs.
It could also be make a wish, manifest.
Yes, absolutely. The ones are probably the 1s and 4s are the most common way that loved ones on the other side will try to, get our attention, especially if we're not, on the more developed side intuitively. So I have a lot of friends that'll come up to me. I don't have a lot of friends. I've had a couple friends come up to me and say, I've been seeing a lot of 1s lately. I'm not really sure why. And, I'll be like, oh, well, I can tell you why. It's because, for example, one of my coworkers came up and said, I've been seeing 1s everywhere. And like, I look on the clock and it's 11:11. And then, my odometer had like 4 1s in a row. And so, I know that her son had passed away as a teenager. And I said, you know what? I think that's probably your son reaching out to you just to let you know that he's there. So that's definitely a very popular way that you can see ones, especially, like I said, if you're new to the spiritual arts. So, so another the next in line is twos, and twos, especially in tarot, is about duplicity and choices. So it's, this or that. It can mean partnerships because it's two people coming together or two ideas being mixed together. It can also mean balance, two things being balanced. And then also your second chakra is your sacral chakra, and that's about emotions and desires. So if you think about it, a new partner, can also have to do your second chakra, which is sex, right? So if you're seeing a lot of twos, it can have to do with that. Also, it's kind of a double-edged sword kind of thing too, right? You've got twos there, so that can mean a lot of different things with that. And then next we have threes, and threes, of course, is the Trinity. It's alignment of mind, body, and soul. Sometimes it comes across as that. With tarot, it means, groups, society, social circles, also celebrations. So there might be a celebration coming up, or you're in the middle of something. And then, of course, our third chakra is our solar plexus. So that's all about your personal power and your gut feelings and, your claircognizance. So your intuition. So threes are about that. Again, getting back to my story about threes being March and my grandfather, that would work with, pretty much any number that might resonate with you. And now one of the other popular numbers, of course, are fours, 444 especially. That's known as the angel number. When you see 444, that's one of the most common meanings, is that it's angels or departed loved ones basically saying hi, checking in, saying they're with you, they're supporting you. A reminder that you're on track. Can also have to do with home and roots, where you came from. So that, especially if that's an ancestor or deceased loved one, getting like a grandparent or somebody trying to get in touch with you, that's very common as well, because there's kind of that double tie there. And in tarot, we've got, stability, security, order. And then your fourth chakra is your heart chakra. And of course, that's about love and compassion and empathy. Something else about fours too, we see them a lot in other ways. For example, there are 4 seasons. There are 4 elements, right? And we've even got 4 limbs on our body. So there are different ways that fours can be interpreted with that symbolically. Now, fives, we have changes, movement, new directions. Your fifth chakra is your throat chakra. So it could be about speaking up, speaking your truth, self-expression, or using your voice, finding your voice, and clairaudience. Now, I had promised you that I was going to tell you a story about fives for me and what that means. That actually means death for me, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
When
That's
I
very
see
different
fives,
from what it means for me.
I know, exactly, right? So, and the reason, though, is because years ago, I worked as a 911 operator. And as part of the police department, we had codes that we would use to communicate with the police officers. You probably heard 5150 before, or different codes that people use. In this case, for my department, the 555 meant homicide. So as a medium, when I'm bringing people in, when I see a 555, I know that, that person was killed by someone else's hand.
Oh, wow. That is really fascinating. Because for me, another thing on 5 is the number of money. It's the 5th month. It's May. It's Taurus. Taurus associated with money and the zodiac. So if you start seeing a lot of 5s, it means changes are coming up for you, or it could very well mean money is coming your way, or changes are in your financial situation. But boy, is that different than
it's a perfect example of how it's different for you than for me. And for me, money and abundance is something else that we'll be getting to in a minute. So sixes with the 666, which is the devil number, right? That's like a common association. And, but if you think about it, it could be because the card, when you get the card, the devil in tarot, that means that you're kind of focused on material things right now. Your vanity is really, showing its ugly head. So that might be kind of a little kick in the butt to say, hey, check yourself, right? So, That's a good one. Also, the sixth chakra is your third eye chakra, which is about, your insight, intuition, imagination, clarity, and clairvoyance. So, seeing things and visualizations. So, six can be all about that. And then we are on to sevens. And I love the number 777. If you've ever been to Vegas, you see it everywhere because, it's considered the lucky
Slot
number,
machine.
lucky sevens.
Yeah.
But yeah, you see 777 on the slot machine and like even on billboards. So this is a perfect example of when it's deliberate, right? Like if you go to Vegas and you start seeing sevens everywhere, like like an attorney's phone number is, 777-7777. Well,
Right.
that's deliberate. It's not an
Right.
accident. If you start
Right.
seeing in random places, like, you pick up a penny and it's from 1977 and then, you get, I don't know.
Your
Anyway,
breakfast
like
was 977, right?
right. Or yeah,
Right.
that kind of stuff. For sure, that's not quite as deliberate. So that's a really good example. But if you do see a lot of sevens, that's, considered luck or good fortune, can mean that you're on the right path. And of course, your seventh chakra is your crown chakra. And that's your connection to spirituality and the divine. It has to do with your soul purpose and enlightenment. So seven is a very special number. If you start seeing that, definitely a good fortune there. So now on to eights. So 888 is interesting. This is what also often is considered the abundance number for money and wealth. And certainly that's what I find myself. The month of August, it tends to be, it's interesting. I don't know. I mean, I shouldn't say I don't know why, but coincidentally tends to be a more abundant month for me because of the eights. I mean, there's just that connection there. But it could be figure eight, like, when you're ice skating or drawing it, it's the symbol for infinity. So it can be, infinite income or infinite wealth coming to you. It's also good signs for business and career. And yeah, so eights are good for that. And then nines. Nines are they're kind of like at the end of, when you go 1 through 9, 9 is at the end. So nines usually mean the end of something. Something's coming to an end. It's equivalent to the death card, where it doesn't mean someone's dying, but it's the death of something. So something's coming to an end, but what's good about that is that means that leaves room for something new to come along, for something new to start happening, new projects, new ideas, or just coming up.
A completed chapter.
Exactly. And lessons learned. Right. In numerology, it means humanitarian and compassion, which is pretty interesting, actually. It's if you know anything about numerology, my life path number is 9. And it's interesting also that I'm an Aquarius, which is considered the humanitarian.
Right.
So it's like a double going on there. So
perfect.
Yeah. So there's that.
I'm a 7.
You
Lucky number 7.
There you go.
The spiritual seeker, life path 7.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go with that. And then, we have zeros, like triple zeros. That seems kind of odd because quite honestly, I don't see that very often myself, but everybody sees things differently. That usually means like things are coming full circle or completion, where 9s mean, you're nearing the end of something. The zeros means it's over. You're done. You've already completed that lesson. It's done. It's in the past. And it was interesting too, is 0 in the tarot of the major arcana is the Fool. And that means, different things. It means like, you're off on a new journey. You're about to start something new. You're naive. You don't know all your lessons yet. You're about to start a new lesson. So it's kind of interesting because it's almost contradictory, where the 0 means, in some circles, full completion. But then kind of the Fool is there too. But you can be kind of, have one foot on each of those at the same time.
Sure, absolutely.
So, and again, like I said, this means different things for different people. And so those are the main numbers, but there are also some other common sequences that you might see together. For example, the number 10, if you see a lot of 10s, that has a lot of different meanings. Like, 10 means perfection. If you're a perfect 10, you also have 10 fingers and 10 toes. 10 can mean turning points in life cycles and karma, at least in numerology. And that's interesting because that's exactly, Wheel of Fortune as the tarot card, is about that kind of thing, the turning points and stuff too. So, and then also 12, that's the 12th month. That's winter. It's holidays. It can also be the end of something because it is the 12 months. There's 12 hours on the clock. And here's something else too. There's like a dozen eggs in a carton, and eggs symbolize, new projects or new ideas just starting to hatch or about to hatch. So 12 can mean that as well. And so now you might be interested to know how things work together, because sometimes you'll see a couple different like combinations of those numbers. And I'm not going to get into all of them because we would be here for flip it ever. And,
this is why I bought the book, people. This is why I bought a book, so that I could look up what 814 meant without driving myself crazy.
So, but some of the more common things, or well, I shouldn't say the more common, some of the things you might want to think about how to make them work together, is in combination. Like you might see the number 1112. So that's a triple one and a two. Triple, it could mean that, things are progressing or changing just very slowly. Or it could mean a new partnership, right? Because triple one means new things and two is about partnerships. So it could mean something like that, or a new love. And then if you see 123 or 1234, especially like on a clock, you'll see 1234 a lot. That could mean it's time to simplify or declutter. Or it also might mean that you're on the right track because it's moving upwards in sequence, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, for example, another thing, I talked about 8s, or in April's case, 4s, you said?
5s.
5, sorry, 5s.
Yeah.
So let's say April starts seeing 5, 2, 2, 2, with 2s being partnership and 5 being, the finances. It might mean new financial partnership for her.
Yeah.
Or, new opportunities.
At least a change. So 5 and a bunch of 2s could mean changes in partnership.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of how the number sequences will work together.
Perfect. Now, that was an amazing overview, but what are some of if you had to summarize, what are some of the main takeaways that you want our listeners to get today?
Well, I would say there are really 2 main points to it, because, you can get this information, like I said, from your intuition. That's one of the takeaways is, I can sit here and tell you all the different things that the numbers mean, but it's going to be your intuition what that means to you. So the numbers are personal, and that, like I said, the numbers are personal, and to trust and use your intuition to interpret them. So I think that would be the main point of everything.
That's right. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. Both shows for realsy reals. All right. Well, we have reached the time in the evening where we are going to pull a question from our mailbag. So tonight's question. Mailbag. Woo, woo, woo. We need a little mailbag song. We'll work on that next time. So tonight's question comes from Jessica. She writes, "Dear April and Jen, I love my job, but I have a coworker who makes me feel terrible. I feel sick, drained, and just plain fatigued. What can I do to make sure that I can stay working without feeling so tired?" So Jessica, that is an amazing question. And it sounds like you have an energy vampire on your hands. And not only that, you might be an empath yourself. So you're extra sensitive to that energy. And next week's show, I'm going to talk about my book, Empath Armor, and we have a lot of things to talk about with that.
Yes, amazing stuff.
Yes. So, but one of my main tips, I never leave home without it, is black tourmaline. So as you know, I work with gemstones and crystals a lot. I like to wear them as jewelry, but you can also put them in your pocket, or ladies, in your bra, right? Nature's pockets. And having that piece of black tourmaline is I'm cracking Jen up. You guys, you cannot see her.
No, but okay. So I'm sorry,
right
but
now.
Anybody who's watched Broad City is dying right now because of what you said.
Right?
But I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay,
Talk
perfect.
about it later.
All right. So next future shows.
No, we will never talk about it on this podcast. I'll tell you later.
It is forbidden. It is secret information. Okay. Sorry, Jessica. Black tourmaline. So black tourmaline is one of my favorite stones because it does triple duty. It's a grounding stone. So it's going to help you ground your energy and not be quite as sensitive. It's going to transmute any negative energy and cleanse that energy. And it's going to perform like a shield or a barrier to keep your energy in place so that this energy vampire can't suck your energy away. So if you can have a piece on your desk, carry a piece in your pocket, wear some as jewelry, that will be amazing. If you also place your hand on your solar plexus chakra, which is about an inch or two above your belly button, when you're talking to this person, that also kind of protects that chakra, so it can help you protect that energy. But again, tune in next week for the show Empath Armor. I will be talking about Empath Armor, how to ground, cleanse, and protect your energy as a sensitive person. And there's lots of simple tips that are very subtle, that are very quick and easy. You don't need to go out and buy tons of stuff. Nobody will even know that you're doing it, but you are going to be well protected, comfortable, and it's like having an umbrella in the rain. You're going to wonder how you live without this stuff. So please tune in.
Awesome. Yeah, those are really good tips, April. And I am actually looking forward to next. I read your book and it's fantastic.
Thank
so I
you.
highly recommend it to anybody out there. It is available on Amazon. And yeah, so I'm really looking forward to hearing everything you have to say next week. So excited. So thanks guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate you. We love you so much. And if you have any questions that you would like to ask, we would love to answer. We're here for you. This is why we do it, because we want to educate you and teach you the things that we've learned throughout our journey. So send your questions to spiritualbasicspodcast@gmail.com. And we are going to take some of the best questions and answer them in future shows. So thanks so much for joining us, guys.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
We will see you next time. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.